Hey everybody, Jay Super Awesome here. I'd like to welcome you all to episode number 20 of my slasher movie archives. In this video, I will be giving my review for Final Examination. You Fail, You Die, released in 2002. Okay, so getting into the plot for this one. A secluded tropical hideaway becomes a serial killer site for revenge when four beautiful girls arrive for their 5-year college reunion of sorority sisters and succumb to gruesome murders one by one. Now it is up to two local police detectives to track down the killer before the next victim is killed, and they must figure out what dark secret ties the victims together. Okay, so getting into my thoughts for this one. Final Examination is not to be confused with the far superior film from the 1980s called Final Exam. Final Examination was directed by Ed Raymond, which is a pseudonym for Fred Olen Ray, which means this movie is loaded with sleaze. Anybody interested in watching this movie based off the cover art might be disappointed because you don't see anything in this movie that resembles anything from the cover art, so the cover art is pretty misleading. At its core, Final Examination is a revenge-style slasher movie. As the movie opens up, we see a crying girl as she drives off the edge of an unfinished bridge that's still under construction. On the surface, it seems like she has committed suicide, but as the movie will progress, we find out that there's much more to it. We have multiple plot twists that tie into the girl at the beginning of this movie. The movie will progress 5 years forward, and we have the members of the girls' fraternity, Omega Kappa Omega, celebrating their 5-year reunion at a Hawaiian resort. They have been invited to this reunion by the publisher of Cavalier magazine. They are to be photographed and become centerfold models, but before that can happen, they start getting picked off one by one, because we have a killer who has orchestrated an elaborate plan for revenge. I'm not really sure why the killer has decided to wait 5 years to get revenge. Waiting a half of a decade seems like a really long time to wait for revenge, in my opinion. Also, committing murders at a very busy resort during tourist season seems like a really bad decision. Now, the back of the DVD suggests that it happens at a secluded location, but that's not really the case. In fact, you would think that the killer would have picked a more secluded location in hopes of actually getting away with these murders. And this brings me to some of the other elements to the movie storyline. I kind of felt like this movie sort of played out like a cop buddy style film as well, on top of the slasher stuff. And we also have a couple of car chase scenes thrown in as well. All of this might sound decent enough, but overall, I was pretty bored with Final Examination. It's loaded with plot holes. There's elements to the storyline that really seemed important, but never truly went anywhere. And I was more annoyed than surprised by all the plot twists at the end of the movie. I just wanted to say, please stop it already. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the characters we have in Final Examination. The main characters we have in this storyline are Detective Shane Newman, played by Brent Huff, and his partner Julie Skesick, played by Kari Wuhrer, who I have been a fan of over the years, but she couldn't really do much to help out this movie, unfortunately. In all honesty, she didn't really have a lot to work with. I wouldn't necessarily say that she gives a bad performance in this movie. I would say she gives more of a uninterested performance in this movie. Again, she really didn't have a lot to work with. There's actually one scene in this movie where her and her partner are investigating a hotel room. Before she enters the room with her gun drawn, you can actually hear her say, "Oh, my foot," as she stumbles into the room. It was clearly a mess up, but I thought it was great that they kept it in the movie, and it's probably my favorite scene in the entire movie. After the movie's opening scene with Rachel, the crying girl who drives off the bridge, we have Detective Shane Newman in an undercover drug deal on the streets of LA, which leads to a car chase that causes destruction and lawsuits throughout the city. Shane Newman is referred to by his peers as either hotshot cop or super cop, but soon after these events, he is transferred to Hawaii and teams up with Detective Julia Skesick to solve the murders of the college girls who are celebrating their 5-year college reunion. We have Kristen, who 5 years prior spread rumors about Rachel, who is the crying girl. The rumor was that Rachel was sleeping with one of the college professors. Her friends Megan, Amanda, Terry, and William all helped to spread the rumor, which caused the events at the beginning of the movie. Again, there's a lot more to it than that. Some of the other side characters that we have in this movie would be Derek Simmons, the publisher of Cavalier magazine, and his photographer Taylor, played by Debbie Rochon. We also have the police captain who is working with the hotel resort owner to keep the murders quiet so it doesn't hurt business during tourist season. It's a storyline angle that we see used a lot in a lot of different horror movies. We also have the very suspicious college professor. Overall, I thought the characters in this movie were decent at best, the dialogue was pretty bad for the most part, and the acting wasn't all that great either. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the most important part of a slasher movie, that is the killer and the kills. I would have loved to seen something similar to the images on the DVD cover. The killer isn't wearing a white mask, but in fact wearing a black, luchador-looking mask. Kinda looks like something a wrestler would use. We also see a silhouette of a killer holding an axe, but we never see an axe in this entire movie. So again, the cover art is misleading. We get some backstory with how the killer is tied to the crying girl at the beginning of the movie, and we also have multiple plot twists at the end of the movie, which ultimately feels like way too much, and feels like a lot of stuff was thrown together to get the movie done and over with, which has a lot to do with why this movie is loaded with plot holes. And as far as the kills go in this movie, it has a pretty decent body count, but there's not really anything interesting about any of the kills. We have what I can only guess as a off-screen stabbing. We see the victim with some blood on their shirt and blood spilling from their mouth, but we don't actually see any visible wounds, only blood. So it was a very cheap way to execute a kill. Pretty much all the other kills by the actual killer are strangulations, either done in a hot tub or a pool, so done in some sort of body of water to add to the overall dramatic effect. I can't really recommend Final Examination. I thought it was pretty boring. I enjoyed seeing Kari in this movie, but I'm guessing this is one she would rather forget herself. IMDb give Final Examination a 2.9 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. This is pretty average stuff all across the board. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Always remember, evil never dies. It rests a while. It watches. It waits. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment below. Let me know if you have seen Final Examination, or just let me know what you think about my review. And as always, I would like to thank you all for watching.